if you're out there. Can you give me a thumbs up that the sound is working? I'm glad to have you with us. Welcome. I apologize about the technical difficulties, but I think we might have sorted it out. So if you're out there, can you give me a sign that everything is good?
It's working, but it's really quiet.
Yay! Kelly Goff, good evening, ma'am. Super low on the sounds today. All right, so let's see if we can turn the volume up a little bit. We'll take care of that momentarily, and we will be right with you. But pour yourself a glass of wine. It's all good. We can deal with this. We faced harder things in the last couple of days. So bear with me for 2 seconds. I do apologize.
I guess use a different mic. Just use this mic for now. See if that's better.
Alrighty. Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's Tasting, or Tasting Tuesdays. Again, my name is Stephen Barnard. I'm with Keswick Vineyards. Keswick is a family-owned and operated winery in Albemarle County in Keswick, and so excited to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about wine, and specifically Cabernet Franc, for the next 35 minutes. And stay tuned, because we have some wonderful announcements at the end of the stream, some ways you can get some fantastic wines, and how you can enter to do a wine experience with us.
The sound's not working.
Alrighty, and I think we still have some technical difficulties. I do apologize.
It's not working, so there's no point in doing that. You can't hear anything.
Can we go to another mic?
I just did. It still wasn't working. That's the only two we have. So, I'm not sure. It's not working. Oh, it just ended.
Can anybody hear me? Can you get to our main screen here, babe? Any sound? We've got, let's see. Say something. I'm saying a lot. Mic gain needs to be turned up. That's all. So let's see.
I don't know how to do that.
Just turn that up there, I guess. All the way up. Let's see. Let's try that. Okay, can you go back to the Facebook page there, babe? Hi, testing 1, 2, 3. Miranda Butler, I can hear you. Very faint. How about now, guys? Yay! There we go. God bless my wife. All right, we're all going to need wine after that. But welcome, welcome, welcome. Officially 7 minutes late, but thank you for staying with us and joining us. So excited to have you. A lot to talk about a varietal that I've fallen really in love with. And but firstly, I want to give a shout out to our wonderful staff. I miss them, and I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe. And all the viewers out there, I hope you're staying safe and that your families are good and well. Where do we start? Oh my Lord, tough weekend. A lot of people have reached out very kindly to ask about the frost and the weather we encountered, and just to give you an honest assessment. Saturday night we were in the vineyards, as we have been a couple of days. We fought valiantly up until around 6:30 in the morning. I felt that we were winning that battle against Mother Nature. We were hovering at 33 degrees. And in the last hour, just before sunrise, we unfortunately lost that battle to a certain extent. We lost all of our Chardonnay, 80% of our Viognier, and some of our prize Cabernet Franc. And that is reason to be down, but what we want to do is focus on the positive. and let you know that we still have Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, we still have Petit Verdot, Touriga, some Verdejo. So there are still going to be incredible wines made. And as I said in my video, I refuse to allow 2020 be defined by all negativity. So we're going to work really hard. We had our pity party, but we got back to work, and we are committed and passionate about making the best wines that we can. So Mother Nature kind of knocked us to the mat, but we're going to get up, we're going to come back stronger, and we're going to make incredible wine. So we appreciate everyone's outreach. We appreciate everyone's support. There was a lot of people, and it really touched us in a, you know, we were so sort of appreciative of everything. So thank you to everybody. And it's not just us. There's a lot of wineries and vineyard managers that got hit. So now is the time to come together and support locally if ever you can. But tonight is not a cause to kind of focus on the negativity. We're going to focus on a wonderful varietal, and that is our Signature Series Cabernet Franc. And it's a varietal I think Virginia does incredibly well. I think Virginia makes world-class wines, but I truly believe Virginia makes the best expressions of Cabernet Franc out there. Let me know if you agree, let me know if you don't. But I think Cabernet Franc, argumentatively, is the single varietal that is world-class and has been for a while. Now, Cabernet Franc has got pedigree. I mean, it's got history. I mean, it was planted roughly in the 17th century in the Libournais region in the southwest of France. And it's very famous in the Loire, if you think of Chinon, if you think of Semur-Champagny. It's also one of the parents of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Carmenere. Everyone knows Merlot, everyone knows Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet Franc is actually the parent of those. So it has pedigree. It is a world-class wine. And I think Virginia has the ability and has been making expressions of Cabernet Franc that are world class. And today we're focusing on a wine that I am totally in love with, and that is our 2017 Signature Series Cabernet Franc. So 2017 was just an incredible vintage. I mean, when you think of wines, you always attribute the quality of the wine to the vintage conditions, and that is no more true than with Cabernet Franc, right? Because I think, and we'll explain a little bit about why I think Cabernet Franc is really a vineyard grape and not a wine grape. There's a lot you can do in the winery, but I think Cabernet Franc is very unforgiving if you don't get it right in the vineyard. The other thing is, welcome again, but if there are questions, please shoot them. I'd love to hear what you think of the wine. If you have any questions about Cabernet Franc, I've got my beautiful wife sitting next to me. If we don't answer your questions live, I will get on tomorrow morning and I will answer every single question. It's very important to us that we recognize that you're here, we love that you are, and that we answer every question, and that we walk away falling in love with Cabernet Franc, knowing that Virginia makes some incredible wines. So if I don't get to your question, I will. But Virginia, or Keswick rather, has quite a few blocks of Cabernet Franc. And when I mean, terroir is so important with Cabernet Franc, you really, it's really, the wine really reflects how the grape was grown, the cropping levels, and we always talk about this propensity towards sort of greenness. A lot of Cabernet Francs have this sort of inherent bell pepper character, and I want to address why that is, what we can do to minimize that, because what we want to do is to create a wine that's savory and spicy and peppery, and we want to minimize that inherent sort of greenness that comes out of it. So the first thing we got to do is pour ourselves a glass, right? The other thing I've done is I've decanted this wine for 2 hours. These wines really take a little bit of time to warm up and expose to air, and once they do, they become so vibrant and so aromatic and so beautiful. I've also chosen a pretty big glass. Just again, it allows the wine to kind of see a lot of oxidation and aeration, and I think that's such a wonderful way to express Cab Franc. So from a decanter, which I've decanted the wine for 2 hours, don't be stingy. It's I know it's a Tuesday, I know it's 7 o'clock, but pour yourself a healthy glass. Before we start talking about it, absolute cheers to all of you. God bless you and your families. Thank you for all your support. There you go. So the thing about Cabernet Franc is it's such a vineyard grape, because what we do in the vineyard really affects what we do in the winery. And when we talk about greenness in wine, we're talking about a compound called methoxypyrazines. Methoxypyrazines are nitrogen or heterocyclical nitrogen compounds in a wine, and it really gives the bell pepper character to Cabernet Franc. And it comes from a couple of things viticulturally that we do, because at the end of the day, remember, we're talking about the quality of the fruit determines the quality of the wine, right? So the better the fruit, the more savory the fruit, the more sort of the color development, the tannin development, the acidity levels, we're going to extract that into the ultimate wine, because again, we're fermenting the red wines on their skins. So the first thing you do is you cannot crop this grape heavily. Again, we are not grape growers, we are wine farmers. You know, we always look at what we do in the vineyard in terms of what that'll allow us to do in the cellar. So we're not trying to crop at 5, 6, 7 tons an acre. We crop it around 2 to 3. And that, we think, is the perfect amount of tonnage per acre that allows us to fully ripen the fruit. Now, pyrazinic character, first question of the day, do you like inherent bell pepper in the wine? I know my mother-in-law, Cindy, loves bell pepper. It's how she identifies that it's Cabernet Franc. It sort of screams at her, she loves it, she enjoys it. What do you think about it? For me, I don't mind a little bit of greenness in terms of vibrancy, herbaceous, and sort of an intellectual component, but I don't like a wine that's incredibly green, where that's all you smell, where the tannins are so sort of harsh and sort of juxtaposed, and there's not a lot of fruit and savoriness that comes out of it. But a little bit of greenness and vibrancy is not a bad thing. So firstly, you have to make sure that the fruit is sort of manageable, that the vine can ripen adequately the fruit that's on the vine, right? The other thing is pyrazinic character is directly correlated to vegetative growth. Now, in Virginia, we have sometimes 40, 45 inches of rain. In 2018, we had almost 90 inches of rain. That leads to heavy vegetative growth, and that's attributable to the water. Again, we speak a lot of times about how water is the single most component that affects our terroir. And if you plant Cabernet Franc on clay, and that clay holds a lot of natural water anyway, those vines are going to take up that water, you're going to get a lot of vegetative growth, and guess what? You're going to get that amplification of those sort of green characteristics in the wine. But the cool thing about it is it's the highest in basil leaves. There's more pyrazinic character in basil and leaves than anything else. So the one thing we can do viticulturally is we can leaf pool. You know, the other thing is at veraison, and veraison is the point in a grape's process where the green grapes turn into red grapes or black grapes, right? Because while they're green, they're filled with chlorophyll, and when they become black, they're changing into the anthocyanins, which are the color pigments in the grape. And that from that point on, there's a breakdown, so to speak, of these pyrazinic or these methoxypyrazines, but it's not due to really sunlight. I know there's a lot of talk about photodegradation, but we're really talking about temperature. So the other thing is, you know, you're cropping a little bit lower, you're opening up the canopy, you're allowing the vineyard to sort of ripen the fruit on the vine, and then the heavy temperatures, and we get really hot temperatures August, September, October, those sort of green characteristics become sort of minimized. And then because we know that there's also a high sort of pyrazinic character in stems, when we pick the fruit, if we have the ability to pick the fruit at good acidity and ripe tannins and ripe anthocyanins and good flavor development, once we get to the winery, there's certain things we can do to sort of minimize the extraction of those pyrazinic characters as well. First thing is sorting. We diligently sort our Cabernet Franc. We want to remove all stems, all leaves, and that we just get berries into that fermenter. It's labor intensive, it's time intensive, but I promise you it makes such a quality difference by sorting the fruit. So viticulturally, you know, you've got to give yourself the chance to make those kind of wines in the cellar. It is less forgiving as a wine than some of the others. There's a lot that you can do in the winery for certain sort of varietals, but I think Cabernet Franc is always traced back to the vineyard. Let me give some shout outs already. Jenny Peterson, Nancy Harvey, welcome. Cindy Schoenberg says, thank you, and I love green character. We have a question, and my wife's going to let me know what that is.
So first, you're getting a lot of comments that people are picking up white pepper instead of green pepper.
Fantastic. The comment says we get white pepper versus green pepper, and that is fantastic, because Cabernet Franc inherently has a characteristic sort of flavor aroma of pepper. Right, it has that sort of spicy inherence. It's not a fruit bomb. I think when you think of Merlot, you think fruit, really elegant red fruits. If you think Cabernet Sauvignon, you think dark fruits. When you talk about Cabernet Franc, you talk about spiciness. But when we're talking about black pepper or white pepper, it shows that there's a physiological ripeness or an extraction more than the bell pepper. So really, really love that comment, and that's exactly what we'd like to see from the wine.
And then Sarah Khan asked, is that a Riedel Sommelier Series glass, and what do you think of the increased surface area? Does that help?
Yes. Thank you, Sarah, for your question. There's a lot of talk about sort of temperature and food, which honestly we always sort of deconstruct it and say, look, wine is drink what you like, how you like, when you like. But the one thing that I would suggest that you do that really amplifies your drinking experience, because let's face it, doesn't matter if you drink a wine at 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, the experience has to be positive, and a good glass can really sort of help really sort of bring out flavor and characteristics in the wine. So yes, this is a big Sommelier Series Riedel glass. Riedel is a fantastic Austrian glass company. I love the fact that the wine gets exposed to a lot of air. The wine really comes alive. It's vibrant. The fruit is there. It's intense. It's one of my favorite glasses, and it's really interesting how the shape of the glass can impact the flavor and your experience of the wine. So to give yourself the best opportunity to enjoy the wine, put it in a decent glass. It's always fun to put the same wine in a polystyrene cup, a plastic cup, and a good wine glass, and you'll see what I mean. But Sarah, thank you very much for that question. It's really fantastic.
And Frank asked, how many Cab Francs are you making at Keswick? Have you considered experimenting with a lighter Beaujolais style?
Frank Morgan from Drink What You Like, an incredible blog. I would follow him. I would check him out. A great proponent of Virginia wines. Thank you so much for the question. The question is, how many Cabernet Francs do we make? We use Cabernet Franc in a variety of applications. We make 3 single varietal wines. We do, I'd hate to say an entry-level Cabernet Franc because it's phenomenal. Then we do a block designate Cabernet Franc, where the fruit comes from a very specific block, chosen because it's an older block on the estate, and we think it creates wines that are just layered and complex, wines that you can drink right now, but really sort of reward time in a bottle. And then our top tier wine is our Signature Series Cabernet Franc, and the label really depicts the philosophy of, if you endorse or sign off on something, your signature is the thing that you can do that really says this is the best expression of a wine that we can make. And the signature is that of our owner, Al Schoenberg. It's 4 barrels only. It's the best 4 barrels that we can find. Beaujolais, interesting question. Beaujolais is generally, it's the southernmost appellation in Burgundy. It's Gamay, very light, fruit-forward wines. I'm interested to try things like carbonic maceration and make a very light entry-level kind of wine. So it's something we've thought about, Frank, but up until this point we haven't done it. The other way we use Cabernet Franc is in terms of a blender. It blends incredibly well with Merlot. If you think of the right bank, Pomerol, Saint-Emilion, and also left bank, it blends incredibly well with Cabernet Sauvignon. But thank you for the question, Frank. Really, really appreciate it. So, as always, we're talking about Cabernet Franc, but when we talk about wine, let's dive in and see why I love this wine. So again, give the wine a good swirl, stick your nose in it, and as we say, we're giving it a bit of a sniffy sniff. Now, if you notice when we talk about wine, I don't really focus on the color. Color is sort of a misleading benchmark or metric of quality. I think what we're trying to do at Keswick is sort of pull back the reins a little bit. There's something to be said about elegance and balance and restraint. So it's got fantastic color, but it's really not overly extracted. It's not totally purple and inky. It's got this beautiful sort of garnet color. It's really elegant. The other thing about Cabernet Franc is, some people talk about sort of feminine versus masculine wines, which I'm not really a big fan of. But what I love about this wine, it's more flirtatious than it is muscular. It has, I have a soft spot for sort of charm and elegance and vibrancy, more so than wines that sort of hit you over the head from here when you can smell the oak and the tannins. And I think Cabernet Franc has this just sort of ethereal quality. If you've ever had the opportunity to try Cheval Blanc in France, in Bordeaux, I mean, you'll see what we mean about Cabernet Franc and how ethereal and silky and elegant it is. A lot of the questions are, how does it compare to Cabernet Sauvignon? That's a great question. It's viticulturally, it ripens a little bit earlier than Cabernet Sauvignon, which in our short growing season is a positive. It allows us the opportunity to sort of really get Cabernet Franc physiologically ripe and pick it late September, beginning of October. And generally, if the weather is decent, we miss those sort of late season rains. It's not as tannic as Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's definitely not as pigmented, but it makes these sort of really elegant based wines. And again, if you get it right viticulturally and you have a growing season that allows you to harvest fruit at that time, you can get these really wonderful spicy kind of characteristics. But then you can also get a lot of sort of violet, and you can get a lot of sort of raspberry and tobacco, and that's what I'm getting in this wine as well. I get a lot of violet kind of character and sort of a purple kind of character that comes out of the wine. And then you get that really typical sort of spicy character, that white pepper, black pepper. But hopefully no one's getting any sort of that green pepper kind of flavor in the wine. And then obviously, more importantly, nose is important, because your palate, again, can only pick up sort of sweet, sour, salt, fat, and umami, right? Your nose really gives you sort of the vocab to talk about sort of fruits and earthy and flavors. So let's give it a taste and see me to it. So cheers, guys, once again. Again, it's been a while since I've had the 17, and I've got to tell you, sometimes we come across as salespeople, but I love this wine. I personally love this wine. I didn't always like Cabernet Franc, because where I started making wine, it was always generally used as a blending component. But I really love the expression of terroir, and I really love the expression of a good vintage. And our soils at Keswick are not the typical clay. We have lots of shale and schist, very well-drained soils. So we actually, can mitigate the effects of rain. When we get a lot of rain, it's not so much what that rain does to us now, it's what follows it. The vineyard's ability to sort of absorb, drain, and mitigate the effects of water is incredibly, incredibly important. And these are vines that are planted in 2000, so they've got some age on them, they regulated, they're balanced. It's a word we use a lot with wine, is the balance of the wine. And I don't know if you agree with me, but I think if you think of the components of wine, alcohol, fruit, acid, and tannin, balance, in my opinion, means everything is harmonious. So it's not too acidic, too fruit forward, too alcoholic, or too tannic. It's got beautiful balance. It needs that acidity for that vibrancy. It obviously needs the tannins for structure, but it's got really lovely fruit. And then aromatically, I think it just sings in a glass. I mean, it makes you think, it makes you want to stick the nose in. You almost go, if they could make that a perfume, if they could turn that into a candle, I would buy it all day long. There was a really, really good question of age-worthiness of Cabernet Franc, and they age beautifully. Our examples can age anywhere from 6 to 10 years. I'm a little conservative in that window for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're not sure how your wines are cellared. And again, we always want you to enjoy the wine. We never want you to open up a wine and say, I'm 3 years too late, right? So we'd rather you drink the wine and say it had 5 more years on it. But because of the acidity and because of the structure and the acid, these wines age beautifully. And if you have the time and the patience, drink these wines at 5 to 8 years, 8 to 9 years. They're beautiful. They're really, really incredible. Nancy Harvey says, get some sleep, your eyes are dark. Well spotted. My makeup artist obviously didn't do such a great job, But I'm back in the vineyards in a couple of hours. So thank you, Nancy. Really appreciate it. But we're taking care of ourselves, doing everything that we can. We have another question, so let me turn it over to my wonderful assistant.
What type of oak was it aged in? For how long?
Yeah, we haven't spoken about oak and what we do in the winery. So the oak we use is French oak. French oak is our choice because, again, American oak it's not a lesser quality kind of oak. American oak can be quite aggressive and it can impart a lot of sweetness to the wine, and what we're looking for is more sort of structural components. French oak is a little bit more tannic, and the grain of the oak is a little bit tighter, so you get an extraction of tannin over a longer period of time. Because I don't know if anyone can taste the oak, I hope not, I hope it's balanced, but this wine was aged for almost 2 years in a barrel. You know, the oak is not brand new, it's seasoned barrels, and what I mean by that is the barrels that the wine is in has been previously used. So we're not looking for a lot of oak expression, we're not looking for sort of that mocha and those sugary or the maple syrup or the dark coffee or that smokiness from the barrel. We really want to express the fantastic vintage and the quality of the fruit, those sort of savory characteristics that come from it as well. So we spoke viticulturally how Cabernet Franc is so important to get right. But then as winemakers, you obviously have to do due diligence, right? You still have to make the wine. So we sort the fruit, we ferment the fruit. Now, when we talk about greenness in wine, there's not much you can do in a winery. If your fruit tastes like a bell pepper and looks like a bell pepper and has that aroma, there's not much you can do in the winery. You know, there's a lot of sort of research out there about how you can figure it out. Now, you can pop a lot of oak on the wine, and what that does is it just masks sort of the greenness in the wine. The other thing about wine is people say, we'll age it, and then that sort of green character becomes less pronounced. There's research to suggest that actually doesn't happen. The only thing that happens in a winery that we can really actively reduce sort of the green character is something called thermovinification. And that is a process by which we really boil the fruit and the must prior to fermentation. We get it to boiling point. And the reason it minimizes the methoxypyrazines, and we're talking about pyrozinic, but we're talking about isobutyl and isopropyl pyrozinic. But what they are, they're volatile above 50 degrees Celsius. So it's really the only thing that we can do in red wine production to minimize it. So what we want to do, we don't have flash détente or sort of that equipment. So we focus on getting it right in the vineyard. And we work with incredible fruit and an incredible vineyard. And on years like 17 and 19, I think you're going to really love the expression of Cabernet Franc and the terroir based as well. Now with white wines, pyrazines are not only found in reds. You know, Sauvignon Blanc is very pyrazinic. And the way you can reduce sort of pyrazines in white is you can cold settle wines. Because there's a thought that those pyrazines actually bind with the grape solids. You know, so there are things that we can do to sort of minimize it, but the fact of the matter is, especially in Virginia, especially with Cabernet Franc, you got to get it right in the vineyard. The wine has been bottled. It's really young. That's the other thing. It's so youthful. It's so expressive. It's got a lot of aromas, but it still can be aged for sort of 5, 8, 10 years. I know I've got a few bottles of this, and I'm going to put it down and sort of push the envelope and see how far it goes. Let me see if I can say hello to a couple of people. Yeah, Kathy Clifton, good evening to you. I love to you and your family. Mimi Popo, I appreciate you reaching out, saying hello and well wishes. Thank you so much. And Lanny White and Suzanne, thank you for joining us. Do we have any other questions? Let me see. Michael France, did you get a reserve Cabernet Franc in 2018? We did not. We made a really lovely blend in 2018, the Reeves Red, and we made Consensus where Cabernet Franc was in it. But what we did, we learned very, very simply and quickly that 18 was not the same quality as 17. And you know, to give sort of value to the brand and transparency to the consumer, which I think is incredibly important, we decided to sort of declassify our wines, meaning that we didn't make a single varietal in 18. And why is that important? Is that when we put a signature series or a reserve label on a wine, we really, 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 truly believe that builds upon the previous vintages. And we've made some incredible vintages of Cabernet Franc, 2013, 15, 16, 17. So if we're going to come out with a Cabernet Franc, we think it builds upon the previous vintages, and hopefully it's not as good as the next. So we did not make any single varietal wine or reserve wines in 2018. Thank you so much for your question. Desi Conrad said, explain the frost. So we had a very mild winter, not a lot of snow, if at all, and bud break. So basically the bud is dormant, and in that sort of compound bud, there's 3 buds. There's a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary bud. And as that bud breaks, that primary shoot comes out. And depending on the development, you get bud swell, you get one leaf, 2 leaf. That green tissue is susceptible to freezing temperatures. And unfortunately, we had what we call a radiation freeze. And a radiation freeze is characterized by there's no wind, there's no cloud cover. It is some of the most beautiful nights in the world, and unfortunately you're in awe of Mother Nature's beauty, and then you get back to Earth because you're reminded that she's really kicking your backside. And what happens is the ground absorbs the heat during the day, and then it radiates that heat at night. But because there's no cloud cover, that heat goes straight up into the air. The ground gets really cold, and you have this inversion layer. You have very cold air and frost at the bottom of the ground, and you get warmer air at the top. And what we try and do is bring that warmer air down into the vineyard. Some people fly helicopters, we use machines, we use all sorts of things. And again, we did everything. And unfortunately, we just got to that temperature just before sunrise, and we lost a fair amount of fruit. Now, the vine doesn't die. It's not that we've lost our vineyard. We've lost the primary shoot. What the vines will do is send out a secondary shoot. If you drive past the vineyard in about a month, the vineyard's going to look green and luscious and beautiful. There just won't be a lot of fruit. So we focus on the fact that we still have some incredible Cab Sav and Petit Verdot and Merlot. We'll take this one on the chin, and we'll get back next year and back to full production and making incredible wines. A couple other people, Michael France, Peggy Eccles, Catherine Smith, Will Leet. Thank you so much for joining us and giving up some of your time. Janice Bryant, thank you so much. Don't be too sad. It's farming, it's tough farming in Virginia, but there's still a lot to be positive about. So let's focus on the positives. Let's put one foot in front of the other. And like Dory said in Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. It's going to be okay. So stay positive. You're still going to have incredible wines. Maybe not as much as we normally make, but I'm pretty confident that 2020 might have started off pretty rough, but it's going to finish on a high. There was a question, but
how many clones of Cab Franc do you have planted, and do you have a favorite?
Yeah, we use clone 200. It's an Entav. It's the history of Cab Franc is Bordeaux in France. But we're looking for clones that ripen early, that are thick-skinned, loose-clustered, so they don't rot, because we do get a lot of rain, we do get a lot of humidity, but we're always experimenting. We're not 100% sure what right Cab Franc clone is. We don't even know what rootstock to put it on, so we're experimenting. We're talking about clonal diversity. We have a block with 5 different clones and 4 different rootstocks, and we're trying to figure out what it is. So it's a great question. It's not one that I can really answer, because certain clones do better in certain years. But with experience comes knowledge, and with knowledge, we're allowed to make better wines. So we'll get back to you on that. Ask me that in about 15 or 20 years, because I don't think I'll ever figure that out. Okay?
Do you plan on buying out-of-state fruit on the season?
The question is, do we buy out-of-state fruit? We are able to, and we have. Just to be 100% transparent, but it never goes into a wine with a Keswick Vineyards label. It's not something we're talking about right now, because we were blessed with a bountiful harvest in 2019. We still have incredible wines to bottle and share with you. We still don't know the extent of the damage. We've walked through the vineyards a little bit, but there's still a bit of fruit out there. So we're hopeful that we'll make estate fruit, and if we do buy fruit, we want to buy within the Monticello AVA. But too early, but we have in the past, and if we do, we'll share that information with you, and it goes into a secondary label. I would like to sort of send my well wishes to Ellen King of King Family Vineyards. I know she's out there. An incredible winery, incredible family. I know they struggled and lost some fruit as well. So best wishes to you, Ellen. Big fans of you and your family, and God bless you. Terry Hauser and Matthew Fitzsimmons, welcome to you folks as well. Really appreciate you joining us. Again, now the wine is sat in the glass for a little bit, and the wine does change. Once it warms up and once it gets exposed to air, you start get some secondary and tertiary aromas that you didn't get when you opened the wine. Again, what I love about the wine is just sort of the intensity and the savory sort of fruit character in the wine. It's so vibrant, it's so lovely, it's so expressive in the nose. And again, no one ever says this is a great smelling wine. Let's taste it and see what it's like. So again, cheers. If you don't have wine in your glass, pour yourself some more. Personal opinion and personal opinion only. I love the balance. I love the restraint. It's silky. It's got length. Some wines that have tannins can be quite chalky and astringent and bitter. These tannins are really integrated and soft and supple. Yeah. So, we've got 5 more minutes to go. Don't jump offline yet. We've got some promotions coming up and some things, so stick around. We're going to answer 1 or 2 more questions. We're going to try these wines again. So if you have any questions, please shoot them my way. At about 7:45, we're going to let you know how you can get some of these library Cabernet Francs for discounts using a special code. And then we're running, I know Al and Cindy don't know about it, but if you kind of share with us and you love us, I am going to do a private vineyard and winery tour for 10 and 12 of you folks. So stick with us a little bit more. I think we can take about 3 or 4 more questions. But let me say this. Virginia makes incredible wines. Virginians are resilient. Farmers are resilient. And yeah, it's been a tough start to the year. And people are hurting, but we get back and we're going to come back stronger. So now is the time to support local, drink Virginia wine, support vendors, restaurants, it's, and pray that we get through tonight. But I promise you, we're going to have incredible Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. So don't give up on the year just yet. Let me see who else. Ramona McCulloch. Oh, we have another question.
What distinguishes the Block 3 and the Block 7 for 2017?
So Block 3 and Block 7. Block 3 and Block 7 are 2 blocks on our property, and we've kept the fruit separate. They differ in a couple of ways. The Block 7 was planted in 2000, and the Block 3 was planted in 2005. They're 2 different clones. There's a slight elevation difference, and one is east-west and one is north-south. It's not that one is better than the other. I think the Block 7 tends to be the more austere, the tannic, the structured of the 2 wines, and the Block 3 tends to be the more perfumey, vibrant kind of wine as well. And what we wanted to do is really learn the vineyards. And what we decided to do was to do 2 different bottlings, and that's the Cab Sav specifically. We bottled the Block 3 Cab Sav. We bottled the Block 7 Cab Sav, and time will tell. It's not that we think one is better, but they were different, and they were interesting. And what we want to do is we want to make interesting wines that get you talking and wines that get you thinking. It's not that we think that one is superior than the other. Personally, I go one day and I go, I love the Block 7. Oh my God, I'm so in love with this. And then the next week I go in and I'm like, oh my God, I love the Block 3. It's so beautiful and so pretty. And we're sort of really expressing our terroir. And again, terroir just means that your wine is unique. Why is it unique? Because it grows in a unique sort of environmental circumstance. It's got soil, elevation, age, wind, sunlight exposure that no other vineyard in the world can replicate. And what we want to do is amplify that in the glass and learn. Winemaking is about learning and experimenting and pushing the envelope. And in our case right now, it's about taking a step back, just putting on the brakes a little bit. You can find Cabernet Francs that are more tannic and much more extracted. But what we want to do is make a wine that's balanced and elegant. And again, this is not a linebacker. Linebackers are strong and muscular, and you can see that. This is a ballerina. Ballerinas are just as powerful, but they're graceful. They're elegant. They move with the fluidity that other wines don't sometimes. And I'm falling in love with Cabernet Franc. I never did. Virginia has really sort of opened my eyes to sort of the the beauty of Cabernet Franc. And while I think Keswick does an incredible job with ours, so does Virginia. I really truly believe Virginia makes some of the incredible world-class kind of wines. So let's talk about some promo codes. Again, we appreciate your support and your enthusiasm, and you reaching out and you buying our wines. And again, we know you've got families and things to do, so to spend 45 minutes with me talking about wine, I mean, we're more than grateful, and on behalf of our family, we appreciate your support and continued support. So a promo code 20 franc, 2020 franc, FRANC, and we are making some library wines available to you, only those that are online tonight. Our 2016 Signature Cabernet Franc, which was phenomenal. Our 2015 Estate Reserve Cabernet Franc as well. There's limited quantities. I think there's like 4 or 5 cases, so it's first come, first served. 20 franc. Use the promo code, get some wine. The other thing, we're going to put your name in a hat, and we're going to draw a name out at one point, and I personally am going to do a vineyard tour and a wine tasting with you, your significant other, and 10 other people. Just like us, just share us, just talk about us. Anything you can do, just let us know. We're going to take your names, we're going to stick it in a hat, and in a couple of months, we're going to pull our name out of the hat, and we're going to invite you to the winery. We're going to get back to kind of sharing great wine, and you're going to come on a walking tour with me through the vineyard and drinking some incredible wines. Let me see if there's any other questions. I know we're getting to 7:44. Michelle Pouts, thank you so much. Do we need to call, or can we get the library wines online? It is online. The website is ready for you. The code is activated. So all you have to do is get on. And again, the promo code is 20 franc, 2020 franc, and it's on the home page. But it is first come, first serve. So you want to get the wine, get on there right now. It is active. So yeah, let me just finish. And again, firstly, thank everybody for your overwhelming support, your generosity. We appreciate you reaching out. Have a prayer, silent prayer, that Mother Nature is a bit more lenient on us, because we have to get through tonight. From our family, from Ari and Kath and our Al and Cindy and Brian and Chris, our family and all our staff, we are overwhelmed by your support. And I'm so enthused at people and how we come together, and despite the challenges of life in the world, I have a renewed optimism about humanity and people, and the coming together and the camaraderie, and it's exciting. So again, drink local, support local, drink great wine. Life's too short to drink bad wine. We appreciate you supporting us. Let me see if I can take 1 or 2 more sort of questions, and then I will love and leave you. Alison Mendenhall, a vineyard tour would be great. We would love to get you out and walking through. Maureen Hamilton Scott, good evening to you. Camilla Washington, there you are. Tracy Burge, I miss Seville. We miss you too, buddy. I miss our rugby days. Hope you're doing all right. So yeah, that's about it. 3/4 an hour goes so quickly when you're having fun and you're so passionate about Virginia wine. So is there anything else?
When are the May tasting bundles going on sale?
Yes. So next week we finish the last of our bundles, which is our 2019 Viognier. And we're going to make an announcement about the next 4 bundles. Let me know if you want us to keep us doing this. We enjoy it. I hope you do too. So let me know if you want us to keep on doing it. But the bundles we're going to offer is the 2019 V squared, which, oh my God, is my favorite V squared of all. Cabernet Sauvignon 2016, and you know how excited we are about our Cabernet Sauvignon. We have our sparkling Viognier, and we have our Touriga, and you have the opportunity to buy one or all of the bundles. And again, join us on Tuesday. And what we are to do is just to have fun, to say hi, to answer questions, to chat, to celebrate life, each other, and wine. And so God bless all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful week. Make sure you get the Viognier, and same time next week. But until then, God bless and cheers. So one last sip. I'll see you next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. And until then, have a wonderful day.